Well, hey everybody, welcome to season 3 already, Jen, to Light Beyond the Clouds.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to this. We're going to change the format up because there's so many people that are writing into you. And this is Jen, my amazing assistant. I need
Hello.
everybody to understand. I don't, Jen, you know that. We talk all the time. Nothing gets done without you. I mean, you are the engine which makes everything. You and I we just fit, right? We
Yeah.
became friends after a session that you'd come to me, and it's been years, but it was just divinely done the way you and I got together with this. Like, it's really, I don't even know if people understand the whole story, how you came to me and I originally had somebody else, and you would just say, maybe you should try this or do this. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing divine voices saying, oh my gosh, start connecting me, and how it just happened. And
Yeah.
it was the most amazing gift I was ever given was to have you to come on and do this. So
Oh, thank
I
you.
want now I need everybody to understand that. And I don't just say that. I say it to you privately all the time. And I say it, here. But I mean, you and I, honestly, as this thing just keeps moving forward, and I'm so excited about, look, we're at 100 and over 30,000 views now, which is incredible on YouTube.
Yes.
That's thanks to you and all your artistry, your amazing little gifts and things that you do. It's incredible. We talk about that, but I'm excited about season 3 because we're going to start really getting into things more and talking about how the gift works. And I know you have questions and things that people are writing into you. And, you and I keep saying we want to help people on this, like to
Yeah.
teach them, but for people to understand how it works for me too. Cause you've been saying to me, Renee, you want people to understand how this works for me too, that I
Yeah.
don't just show up and, I mean, that there's a lot more to it and how involved it is. So even besides all the videos that we do together, because we do them together, that there's a lot of things, what I mean, that when I get ready to have clients. So I think season 3 is going to be interesting and fun. And I think it's time for people to start hearing about what we do, and how this works and how this helps everybody in their daily
Yeah.
life. Now, how we want to open everybody up to really what's out there, the supernatural world, as we're just talking about. So I know you said you have questions and things that I don't know, people have been
Yeah.
writing
I
in and
mean, there are questions, just things people have been curious about, because they always ask, like, well, where's she really getting the messages
yeah,
from? Or I think people have a misconception that everything, you could just find everything online. And while that's true for a lot of things, there's a lot of things that you are not and cannot find online. And I say this with the most love, but I try to explain to people, I'm like, Renee is not a very tech savvy person. I'm like, right away, I'm just like shutting that down. Cause that is a big question that people ask. They're like, no, she must have looked up that information. And I'm like, no, she didn't. I promise. I promise she did not do that. But just to even get it started, I want you to tell people a little bit about, when you first realized that you could do this, because you were doing this before you even knew what it was.
Jen, it's really interesting. And I've had, some people I've always said I don't really talk about myself that much because when people come, they've got a lot of pain and heartache and they want connections, but I use what I know to help them, I guess is what I want to say. I use the gift that I've had. I was 9. It happened, when my mother went into the hospital. She went in on Mother's Day. I can still remember it like it was yesterday. And it was a neighbor next door that, we didn't have any relatives here. And so this neighbor came over and said, I'm going to help you, to my father. You need to take her to the hospital. And she was in there for a really, really long time. And I can just remember crying every night, going to bed. I was the youngest of 3. We're just all a year apart. I was 9, we're 10 and 11. And I would just cry. I wanted her to come home. And I didn't understand. Back then people didn't discuss really what was going on. You kind of kept it private. So I would cry. And I can remember about the third night in of her being gone, I pulled the covers over my head, right? Because I just wanted to come home. I'd get scared. I used to always do that, pull the covers over my head. And when I went to sleep, I started seeing these angels. I was in these beautiful gardens. To me, it looked like Jesus. You know what I mean? I don't deny that. That's what I started seeing visions of. And he would hold my hand and he was just beautiful. It was this person. I wasn't quite short, 9 years old. You don't know, now, but it just made me feel such peace, Jen. I was in these beautiful gardens with all these white roses, and this beautiful man just kept saying, she's going to be okay. She's going to come home. And then he would start saying, like, she's going to sit up tomorrow. And then my father would come home and say, your mother sat up for the first time, or she opened her eyes. Like,
Oh,
I kept getting these kind of premonitions of what would happen then when she ate. You know what I mean? It's like she's going to eat tomorrow. And then my dad cried and he's like, your mother took a bite for the first time. So that's just how it started. And I just thought, I couldn't wait to go to bed at night. I wasn't scared anymore. Like it was this
yeah.
promise of everything's going to be okay. So then after that, when she came home, I still kept then sensing angels. I kept feeling this angel always on my right side, like, it's going to be okay. And that's just how it started for me. And I just thought, oh my gosh, doesn't everyone see this? I thought this is beautiful. Everybody's protected like this. That was really what my thought was. Everyone's protected, Jen. Everybody has this, whether you realize it or not. It's there. And in times of trouble, we will sometimes visually see them more. They'll come in dreams. We'll sense and feel them more. But just because we don't sense and feel them like that every single second, they're there,
Yeah.
right? You have to trust. I always say you don't see the wind, but you feel it. You got to trust the supernatural world and believe in things because we don't do anything alone. Everything is being guided. But for me, that's how it started. And then as I got a little bit older, I can remember doing a neighborhood carnival, right? And my mother asked what I wanted to do. Everybody was working, at different things.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, "I wanna tell tell 'em about the angels." And my mother was just like, "What?" And I said, "I wanna tell tell 'em about the angels." And then I started telling her what I see, and thank God I had such a good mother that allowed me to express that. And she set up a tent with a Christmas snow globe in the center. Alright, and people started coming in and out, adults, and started walking out saying, "She saw my mother, she saw my father." But what happened though is as you become a teenager, then you wanna be a teenager. I always sensed and felt things, but I didn't tell anyone because I realized nobody else talked about this. To be a normal teenager. So you kind of it's not that you lose it, but you kind of internalize it more. Like I
Yeah.
knew things like I shouldn't do that, I shouldn't go here. I always sensed that. Like I was always the one that wanted to go home first or don't you shouldn't do that or I mean it was kind of like a guide, a compass for me. I guess if that's a good way to say it, but I didn't discuss it with friends. I don't think I told one single friend that I had this. My parents knew, but I just wanted to just be a teenager. And then as you start to get older, what happened is when I went to cosmetology school, and I think being around people again and my hands always being on them, when they would get in my chair, as soon as I would touch them, I'd be like, I feel your mother. Like, and I didn't know what to do with it because I didn't know how people would accept it.
Right.
I knew I wanted to help them and it was such a beautiful thing, but that's kind of really for me how it started. But my whole life, it was always this amazing guide. And I would always try to help other people with it, even though they didn't know it. I'd say, well, maybe you shouldn't do that. Or maybe, let's go here instead to try to guide them, you know what I mean? Kind of in a way without really guiding them. But
Right.
it was scary for me. That's the other thing too. People say, was you scared? No, my gosh, no. It was the most amazing, beautiful thing. And I wanted it for everyone. I still want it for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's why you're so good at helping people because you do genuinely want to help other people and want them to be on that healing path. And I agree with that. I think when people find that healing path, it definitely changes your life. You have a whole new perspective on how you look at things and then how you lead your life. And I think you and I talk about this all the time. We're here to learn lessons. And I tell people, it comes a time when you have a choice. Like you're either going to continue to get the same lesson because you're just not getting it, or you're going to choose to accept what you've learned and now you get to change things and experience it different. But yeah, that's great. I mean, so young, I can imagine that would be a little bit scary. And then obviously as a teenager, even now in this day and age, I don't know that people would necessarily share it. I do think that it's a little more accepted now, like for people, they have more understanding of it. So maybe, your like friends would think it's really cool, but I do think that's great. How does it actually feel though when you are like when the spirits and angels are like approaching you? How does that feel? Do you physically feel different? Do you see things? Do you hear them, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, I love that too. So it's a combination of both for me. So it's really interesting is it wasn't always like that, but I think the more that I've done it. So it's just like last week I had a lady, that came and I felt her father, right? And people always ask me about names. I do get names a lot. That is not, what I mean, something I try to do, but they will come through. I saw he wanted to show me a memory. See, messages to me are memories because I think everything in life are memories and messages. You know what I mean? That's where everything comes from. And so I will see things now. I saw a lady riding a girl. I saw a young girl riding a pink bike across my forehead. I'll see visions now. It's interesting. Like, I'll see movies in my forehead. And I saw her riding a pink bicycle. And I said to her, your father wanted you to remember the pink bicycle that he gave you. And then she started sobbing. And she just said, "That was my last memory with my father before he passed. He gave me a pink bicycle."
Oh,
So, and I can see it. And back to what you're saying, people looking up things. I mean, you can't, right? You can't. How do you I mean, she was, I mean, middle aged and there's no way do you understand? These are memories
yeah.
from when she was 8 years old of her riding a pink bicycle, and I'm seeing it. I will see things like that. I will physically sometimes too feel like, in that moment, which is interesting, not always, but I've felt like sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I'll feel like their energy. I feel like it's in me, and that's something that doesn't happen all the time, but if it's something very intense, that I will feel that. But when I start my sessions and when I do that, when I come in, I come into my spiritual room and I usually about 20, 25 minutes, right? I just come in, I sage the room always. You're not bigger on the staging. I sage the room and I just ask God and love and light to come in only. I always just say in the name of Jesus, love and light only. I go around the windows, but then I sit and I pray. I ask my divine spiritual team to come in, my guardian angels, and I just ask them to please bring love and light. And I'll say the person's first and last name to them, bring the messages in, may their loved ones step forward that I may heal them. And that's what I do. And I sit with my pad and my paper and I close my eyes, right? And I always just say a little bit. I've had these old rosary beads that were my grandfather's. That's another whole story we'll talk about. You know about them, but I didn't know they existed. But now that I have them, and I just say a little bit of that, but it's always about bringing in the highest of good, the highest of only light and truth for people, right? That I only want to bring in. And Jen, I just sit with my pad and paper and I will start seeing visions. Like I will see the most incredible things. I will hear phrases from them, like tell them about this phrase, like, the other day, penny from luck, penny for luck, from a lady's grandmother, that, and then she'll say to me, oh my God, my grandma would always give me a penny and say a penny for luck. That's who I
Yeah.
wanted to come through. So phrases that you just say, how can you know these things if it is not them showing me, right? Or somebody, the other day flipping heads and, say pick heads or tails. And they said to me, their grandfather always would do that, flick it up in the air and say, okay, heads or tails. Do you understand? And it's like, that's the one message that connected them to that person that is so personal for them. Yes, and I'll see joy. I'll see things. I'll see things also of what's happening. If they're going to take a vacation or they're planning to go somewhere, or the other day I knew the girl was expecting, and I said, your grandmother's saying she's holding your baby in heaven right now that you're expecting. She's just like, no one knows this. No one. We haven't even told the family yet. So
Oh.
do you understand? It's just, or if they have a baby loss, I'll just say, your mom's holding your baby in heaven that you lost. And it's just things like this. And you still hold on to, the blanket and you named her. And sometimes the name will come through. I'll know the name. So it's things like this that like I always just say, I always just say, don't test or challenge the divine. They're here to love you. But that's just kind of me. My preparing is just really shut my energy down a little bit. For like 20 minutes, because I like to connect. I like to feel. I like my angels to come in. Then I like them to bring in, theirs. And it's amazing. The souls in heaven don't compete with each other. If there's 15 people that need to come through, it's always going to usually be that last one that comes through that they really wanted to hear from, because that's what they're going to remember. Because see, there's no time or jealousy in heaven. It's not like us here where it's like, I was waiting in line all day. Don't butt in front, right? Even driving, right? People will, try to hurry up, move and cut you off.
All the time.
Heaven doesn't do that. They're patient. They know, and they're going to just wait. Heaven's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, Jen. But that's just really what I do. And I will get messages even when I don't do that. I can get them. I can be doing dishes and get a message. It really doesn't matter anymore. It's just constantly there, but it doesn't make me tired either. It doesn't wear me out. It doesn't.
So that you just talked about what you do to kind of prepare. Is there anything that you do to keep your own energy like protected and grounded like after you do sessions, or is it something you do regularly just to keep yourself grounded?
I like that too. So I always ask Archangel Michael because, I always ask him to protect me physically, spiritually, mentally for anything evil, harmful, or bad. I always just say, to put blessings here. And when I'm done, I thank them. I think the big thing for me is thanking them, because we ask, but we never forget to say thank you. We ask for everything. Do you understand? Even from the divine, but we don't say thank you. And sometimes say ask first and say thank you immediately, because assume you're going to receive it. Do you understand? I always just say, I ask for it and thank you, because I know that it's going to come. But for me, it's about saying thank you and then asking the angels to, just thank you for that. Now I'm done. I'm done with this. Thank you for all the help and the guidance and the protection that you gave. Because when the session's over, I always just say their angels are going with them. They don't stay with me. I have my own in heaven, right? They're going. That's what I say to people. They came here for you. They're going back with you. They're not staying with me. They're not camping at my house. They came with you and they go back. And that's sometimes people will ask that, but I like being able to kind of talk about this more, Jen, because really we haven't done this yet.
Yeah. So is there ever a time like when you do receive like a message that you've chosen like not to share something?
Okay, with a client,
Yeah.
I've received messages that haven't been easy always to, to pass on. And I have to tell you, when I do, I've always said to my angels, to help me to find a way to do it in love and light. And you've been with me before when I don't choose. And sometimes people will say, just say it like it is, or just be, but I always just feel like the divine is so beautiful to me that I know if it was something tragic with someone, I will try to say it in a way that they understand. Like if a female was physically like assaulted, you understand? I try to always say it in a way where it doesn't make them feel bad or that they were alone. I just say it in a way that your divine knows and that I always try to find a calmer way, or if somebody committed, suicide or took their life, and I try to find another way that, do you
Yeah.
understand, that they chose to not be here on their own instead of saying they killed themselves. I don't believe in saying it like that because the divine world is different than ours. And I think when people receive message from me, sometimes they don't understand where I'm coming from, right? They want to hear it in their, what they want to be true. But when I receive the messages, I have to honor the way that I'm receiving them. And that's how I receive them. That's how, and I've never talked about it or actually said that out loud before. So it's kind of interesting. They're kind of just giving me that little download right there that it's coming from them. It's not the way I'm choosing to give it, it's the way they're wanting me to pass it on. I've never actually said that out loud. It's interesting, but it's like that because people just say, do you understand? Did they do this or they do that? And I'll just
Yeah.
say, this is because that's how I'm receiving it. And I can only pass it on how I'm receiving it.
Well, and I think that's good. And yes, I have definitely been around in sessions and just in
Mhm.
circles. And sometimes I do feel like I can tell by the way that things come out. I'm like, okay, like I just already know just from being around you enough to say, like, something happened a little bit more tragic than what she's saying. And, I do think that people try to test it because definitely been around where people are like, well, what do you mean? Can you be like more specific about this? And I'm like, oh, she's saying this so like respectfully right now. Like, and being in a group, especially, you do want to be a little bit more sensitive on how you're delivering the information. And while I think people realize it's a group session, I don't think they understand until maybe some of those more difficult messages, just so you know, like, hey, it's me, like I'm the one from your family that we're talking about and I want you to hear what I have to say. But when they try to get a little bit more um like give me specific details and I'm like, "Oh goodness." And you're like, "I don't want to say like your person decided to take too much of a medicine one night and this is what they did." I do love the way you are able to deliver like those difficult messages to people because it's hard. Do you think I know you said like everybody has this and, I think though, and you can tell me what you think, is there a difference between people being curious about it versus being ready? Because when you're curious, you're like, this is kind of cool. Let me see what's going on. But I feel like if you're ready, you're like at a different level and then you can actually maybe start receiving some messages yourself, at least for yourself from your
Yeah.
own angels and divine.
Yeah. So I get probably more messages about this or people coming saying, I feel like I have this. I think I know this. I sense and feel things. And I tell everybody we're all clear sentient, right? It's like we have a built in GPS. I always just say, look at it like that, where it's like make a little turn. It's going to still get to where you're going. It's going to talk to you, but it's going to take you a different way. There's a difference too. Yeah, some people are just curious. I had a lady say to me years ago, this lady named Sonia Benzer, and she said there's three people that have the gift, people that think they have the gift, and people that want the gift. And so I just think that sometimes the divine, I always just say they're not a toy. It's not Christmas morning. You can't play with it. And then when you're
Right.
done with it, throw it away. And that's how I kind of look at it. It's not Christmas morning, like, oh, I'm so excited. Let me play with this. And then let me just be done with it and stick it in the corner. The divine is an amazing living, breathing. Do you understand? It controls every single thing in our life, even these conversations we're having, even us doing this, right? It's because this was the right time. They want to guide us to the right place. So when you open up, I always just say that if you're opening that up, you've got to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. You're bringing in the right things. You have the right intention. That's if you want to use it like for other people. We all have it in our life where we sense something told us to go somewhere later or to go somewhere now. Just this is the divine is going to control everything. Like perfect thing was the other day, like 2 days ago, I think it was on Thursday. I had gone to the food store, right? And it was just so weird. I usually am pretty good about not forgetting stuff, but I had forgotten one thing that my husband wanted, that Dave wanted, and Dave. So it was like 4:30, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh," I had clients coming, and I'm just like, "You know what? I feel really bad I forgot this for him because that kind of stuff bothers me." I was like, "I'm gonna get dinner on, then I'm gonna go." And he's like, "You don't need to. No, 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 it's fine." I was like, "No, something was saying to me, you need to go." So I'm driving down my street, right, the side road, and all of a sudden I look and I saw what I thought was somebody kneeling on the grass, right? And then long story short, what I mean, I look in my rearview mirror and I could see a young girl there and she had her head down. And I remember just something said back up and I backed up, rolled down the window and I'm like, are you okay? And, she's laying there and she's crying and sobbing and saying no. And I remember just jumping out of the car and I still hope that little girl's okay. I don't know who she is. She lives in this area, but do you understand? She had really hurt her wrist. It was bad. You know what I mean? And I just sat with her and then talked to her father on the phone and said, you need to, it was bad. And but anyway, so just how God puts you in places, how I went at that particular time, which I've never done before. I usually would never leave the house at that time because I'm getting ready, you know what I mean? But how the divine will put you in places you don't know why. So sometimes it makes you go somewhere and sometimes it says no. So we all have that, right? Back to that question. We all have that built in. But when it comes to actually using it, I think God understands what our intention is. The divine, your angels know what your intention is and how you want to use it. And not everyone's gonna do what I do, but you better believe you have that built in where you know whether you should take that job, date that person. Do you understand? Go to that event, say yes or no, you know what I mean? But that, yes, back to that, we have that. We came in with it from heaven. We all came in with that guidance, but we're not all going to do this because honestly, Jen, your heart it's something that has to be so important to you to see the amount of people that I see on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. Do you understand? And to do these videos, this isn't something we just do, Jen. We don't take this lightly. People have to
No.
understand. This isn't something that we just do. I mean, this is something you have to answer for. You're affecting someone's life. You're changing their life. You're guiding their life. You're helping their life. Your intention better be more than yourself. If you have an ego in this, you better not do it because it has nothing to do with me. There is no ego in being able to do this and to take someone's life because they're listening to what you say. Do you understand? And you better hope that you're guiding them in a way, and you should never. And when people ask me to about bad things, do I receive bad stuff? Because I know you're going to ask me about that, bad messages. I don't get like what you call bad messages. I get guiding messages that if I'm supposed to
Okay.
guide you, go to the doctor, maybe check your thyroid, maybe check your, do you understand? And my angels only show me things I've always asked them that I can help someone with that it's something can I help them with? Is it something that they're going to be okay? You know what I mean? That it's going to make a difference in their life. Because I always just say, I'm not God. I don't step into God territory. I don't see when you're going to leave the physical earth either. I always say, people don't ask me that. I don't touch that, but that for me is, I just think your intention behind this, Jen, it better be, do you understand? It better be because you and I know what you do with me every day. You see what I do. You're part of all this, and your intention has to be pure.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. What do you think, just in the years that you've been doing the mediumship now, like what has that taught you most about like life, death, and, even the purpose of being here?
Oh my gosh, that's wow. Okay. That's actually a beautiful question. What it's taught me so much is to trust. I wasn't always, you and I are both Geminis, we talk about this, right? We're always in our head, not always can be the most trusting people. We're always kind of like, I don't know about this, bro. I
Yeah.
don't know. Always, what it's really taught me is Renee, just because it didn't happen now, you need to trust. Do you understand? Like when I ask for something in my personal life, which you and I've always talked about, you don't ask really ever for yourself, and I don't really either. It's usually for somebody else. But what it's taught me is when I do what I do ask for myself is how I can help guide people more with this, right? How do we get the word out more? How do you and I, you know what I mean? And it's happening. But it's taught me to trust more that just because something didn't happen in my time, in my Renee world, doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And that was a big deal for me because I always wanted everything right away. Even as a little girl, I wanted things now. I'm always like, now, I want it now. When I asked
Mhm.
for it, it meant because I would like to have it right now. And what it's taught me is, Renee, there's a universe that's trying to make it better than what your thought is.
Hmm.
And that I have loved because I've realized that when I've sat back and waited, even sometimes with you, and I've asked you stuff or sent you something, and you're like, no, maybe just wait. And sometimes in my mind, I'm like, I would say to you, but Jen, and I'm like, oh my God. So that's what the divine, do you understand? And you and I are
Yeah.
connected. And what it's taught me too is about like the afterlife and the other world, which I always knew, as my dog trying to get out, is that always more, like I never doubted that, do you understand that heaven was real? Because I've seen it, Jen, since I was a little girl. That's another thing we'll talk about another time. I've seen heaven. I go there in my dreams. So it's taught me to understand that there is so much more that we talk about life after life, but there's life before life.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want our listeners to remember one thing from this conversation, what would it be?
From this conversation, I want them to understand that you and I are real people and that we're doing is real, that we really, really, really want to help people's lives. We do it on a daily basis. We do it with the podcast that we've done with the interviews, you know what I mean, having people on so they can see the messages. I want them to understand that we're more than just a daily video, that that's there because we wanna change people's lives, like, we wanna
Yeah.
help anybody we can help every single day, but this is so much bigger for you and I, and that we're just starting on this journey, that we're here to stay. We're here to try to help people because we really honestly I always look at life, it's like you take a candle and that one candle lights everybody else's, and that's what we wanna do is to light their candle.
I mean, I'm very excited for this season 3 and the different things we'll be
Yes.
doing. People will still get to see, some interviews that we'll do. We'll still do, kind of like our original format, but it's just not going to be as much as that. We're going to get on here and talk about a little more about our daily messages even and
Yes.
helping keep people positive and how you can just changing your mindset and train of thought can just really kind of guide your life in a whole new direction. So I'm very excited about that for us.
And I talked about too that we're gonna give people some tools too, like things that they can do, mantras, things do you understand? Energy things that they can do also
Yes.
physically, right? That you can physically do that are going to help change. So there's gonna be so many things that you and I are gonna be talking about, and I just love having you on here. I want people to understand that behind me, there's you. You know what I mean? That no, but it's honestly, I say to you all the time that, you know what I mean, you have an amazing energy, and I just think together we're people are getting to know us. I want them to know us like this too, to get
Yeah.
to know who we are because it's about trust. People have to trust you. And I want them to understand that we really truly care so much about what we're doing. That it's
Yes.
every day we talk. It's not just, this is an everyday thing that we do. So I'm looking forward to this and it's going to be an amazing season 3.
Yes, I agree.
Jen, thank you for this. And I hope this is helping to heal everyone. And we love the comments. We love that when people write in. And if people have things they want to know about the divine too, don't hesitate to write
Yes,
to
please
us because
ask.
it's why we're doing it, right? If you don't ask, you don't know. Jen, listen, I look forward to seeing you next week.
Okay. See ya.
Beautiful day. Take care.